Hello everyone, I am Charu Dogra Rawat, Associate Professor from Ramjas College, University of Delhi. Today I am starting a new series on microbiology and it's termed Microbiology Literacy. In this, we will be talking and introducing you to the microbial world. The learning objectives actually for this complete series or a part of this series would be to know about the various types of microbes, to understand about their habitat or the niche of these microbes, to understand the significance or the importance of these microbes, that is the roles that they play, as well as to understand the importance of this microbiology literacy. Now, primarily this series will talk about the microbiology aspects which is involved in many curriculum, the microbiology curriculum as well as the life sciences curriculum. I have added the word literacy because these should be useful for non-biology and general people also to understand the world of microbiology. Now this has become very essential because if I ask you what is present all around, so that which is all present all around us but cannot be seen with the naked eye, you would come up with probably the air, you would say the radiations, the light, the waves which we cannot see, the energy fields which are there, the spirits maybe, and the microorganisms. So these microorganisms are present all around us but cannot be seen with the naked eye. Technically, a microorganism or microbe as they are commonly called is a living organism that is microscopic, that is cannot be visualized without the use of a microscope or can be visualized only under a microscope. That is the technical definition of microorganisms. It can be bacteria, fungi, archaea or protists. The viruses, viroids, prions, they are also microscopic but they are acellular or non-living in nature. However, when we deal with microorganisms or microbes in general, we include at least the viruses in them. I will be talking in detail about each of these so that you understand what this microbial world constitutes. Now, these microbes, they exist in single-celled form or in a colony of cells. As I said that they are usually unicellular, they are microscopic and unicellular organisms. But when we study them or how they exist in the nature, not as an isolated individuals, but we will see that they occur as the colony of cells. So they are still, after being the colony of cells, they may become visible to the naked eye, but not in their usual forms. But generally, they are not visible to the nuclei. So I hope you understand that this is what the microorganisms constitute and these are what the microbes are. Now looking at the tree of life, where does these microbes come from? Now this is termed in the evolutionary scale and as you can see, the bacteria are the oldest form. There are three different domains of life, which is the bacteria, the archaea and the eukarya. In the eukarya, the fungi and the other plants and the higher animals, they are included in these eukaryotic cells. But then there is also the lower eukarya which are still not visible to the naked eye and therefore constitutes or get into the microorganisms range. So the bacteria, the archaea and the lower eukarya, they come into the microorganisms and we will be discussing about each one of them elaborately. You can also see on the upper panel the 6 kingdoms as they define nowadays, out of which the Protista is actually not the real group, but then still we talk about the 6 domains which constitute the bacteria, the archaea, the Protista, the plants, the fungi and the animals. So these are the 6 kingdoms that we talk about, the 3 domains that we talk about, and in them I have told you that what constitutes the microorganisms and the microbes. Now this is termed as the tree of life because they have been put on an evolutionary or phylogenetically scale. Now this is again very important because we want to explore and discover the different diversity or the microbial diversity or even in fact the biodiversity so as to understand these evolutionary relationships, the behaviors and the forms that have evolved over the time. The favorite endeavor of the scientists have been to know this microbial diversity and to enumerate its number. Now, enumerating microorganisms, the estimated number of the microbial cells on earth hovers around a nonillion, which is 10 raised to the power of 30, a number that exceeds the estimated number of stars in the universe. So you can well understand the abundance of microbes in the environment or in the entire biosphere. So microbes are highly abundant and they are in the range of nonillion that is present in the environment. So that again signifies how important they are to know about these microbes. Now this is talking about the number of microbes, but then it is very important to understand about the diversity of these microbes also. That is the variety of microorganisms or the different types of species that are present in the environment. This microbial diversity describes the number of different species of microbes present and their distribution. So not only the abundance means something, but the microbial diversity is also a very important parameter to study. Now looking at this microbial diversity, which the scientists want to understand, as I said, to understand the phylogenetic relationships, to understand how the evolution of forms and behaviors happened, and to understand the descent of life, they study about this microbial diversity. And the recent estimated that the earth might be home to a staggering 1 trillion of the species, which is 10 raised to the power of 12 species. So again, I emphasize and bring to the forefront the point that it is not just the abundance. Microbes are the most abundant species. Additionally, the microbial diversity is quite staggering. The biosphere, which is described as all the living organisms which is present on the earth and the interrelations, it would not be exaggerating if I call this biosphere the microbe sphere, because of the abundance and the diversity of these microorganisms. Now these microorganisms, if we look at, no wonder that they are so abundant and so diverse, but still discovering the earth's biodiversity has only come within a 1,000th of 1% of all the species on the planet. So you can well appreciate the fact that so much of microbial biodiversity is still unexplored and remains to be explored. Now this microbial diversity, if I look into how do they find this or how do they even enumerate the microbes, initially it used to be done by the plating method. So it used to be done by plating or culturing, in petri dishes, these microbial samples which are collected from different environmental places, and therefore the culturable bacteria were counted, and then their biochemical, their cellular as well as their physiological properties, for example degrading a particular type of a pollutant or producing certain set of proteins or enzymes, that is how they used to ascertain this microbial diversity. Now it was a very underestimated count or underestimated number that they used to reach upon. Then in 1990s around, there come the era of genomics, where the genome sequencing became a very regular or a routine thing. Gradually it became a routine thing, and now what is done is that these samples are collected, and then the amplicon sequencing, for example 16S, the metagenomics and metabolomics are done on these samples, and the microbial diversity is ascertained because of the results of those genomic parameters. And this has expanded the estimate of this microbial diversity. This high throughput sequencing methods have greatly enhanced our understanding of the microbial diversity. However, still I would say that it is a very small percentage that we are able to do. We always have to accompany these non-culturable metagenomic and metabolomic methods with the culturable methods to ascertain the final number. And that has given us the estimate that approximately the 1 gram of agricultural soil probably contain routinely 10,000 species of microbes. Or as we will see down the lane, that humans contain approximately 1 trillion of the microbes that are present. So you can again, I am emphasizing these numbers and facts so that you can appreciate the fact that microbes and microbial diversity is very, very significant and important. We just cannot ignore the microbes. Now, this microbial diversity led to the understanding of this microbial diversity led to the microbiome Earth microbiome project, which was laid down in 2010. And as you can see, this was basically done to construct the microbial map for the planet Earth. Now, microbes, again I will visit this point, that microbes are present and isolated from all the different strata of Earth, from atmosphere, from soil surfaces, from water, from every part, even from human beings, from insects, from animal guts, from all the aspects, the plants, the rhizosphere soil, everywhere these microbes are present. So this gargantuan task was taken up and to construct this microbial map for the planet Earth, and it is termed as the Earth Microbiome Project. Now, what they did was that they actually wanted to, the premise was to understand this microbial diversity with their own perspective. So, what they did was they divided the entire Earth into different environmental similar, biomes. So, a biome is defined as a specific area which has a quite specific biophysical and chemical properties. So, they divided the entire world into biomes, and then from each biome the samples were collected. It was a huge effort, and it's a crowdsourced effort that started, in which various scientists are doing this. They provided the samples as well as they are doing the sequencing, metagenomics and metabolomics to understand the microbial diversity under these microbiomes. What they have done is that they collect the samples, they sequence the samples, they reassemble the samples, and then they try to understand from the reassembled samples what kind of microbial diversity is present in these microbiomes. So, around 500,000 reconstructed genomes have been done to understand the microbial diversity. So, this project is, expanded our knowledge of the microbial diversity, and it is still doing so. It is in the third phase and it is still doing so that these samples are analyzed and their understanding of the Earth microbiome is enhanced. Now, I will come back to the differentiating between the term microbiome a little bit more again after a few slides, so that you can have more grip on the understanding of what I mean when I say the microbiome. But I hope you understand that this kind of a microbial map, it is going to facilitate and enhance our understanding of the microbial diversity, and later on when I will signify and highlight the importance of these microbes, the roles they play in our daily lives, in all the environmental cycles, in all the homeostasis not only of the body but the balance between the humans as well as the environment, even in the space, everywhere these microbes are playing a very important and significant role. So you can understand why this microbial diversity understanding is so important. And moreover, to understand about the lineage, where does it all start from. So this is basically talking about the Earth Microbiome Project, which has told us that there are so many species which are prevalent, and so many species are prevalent in different microbiomes of the entire world, or the Earth, which is talking about. Now, understanding about this microbial biodiversity or microbial diversity tells us about what are the most abundant microbes that are present. Now, bacteria, the 5 million trillion, which basically means that 5 into 10 raised to the power of 30 is the number that the bacteria is present. So, as you can see in this figure, it talks about the bacterial biomass also in the terms of the carbon amount which is present. So, it is expressed in terms of gigatons and it is represented in terms of blocks. So each block represents 10 million of the biomass, the carbon which is present in the organisms, and as you can see that the bacteria, there is 70 gigaton carbon which is present. It is the second highest after the plants. Now plants is having a large chunk, approximately 82.4% gigaton carbon content of the entire biosphere, and the bacteria is basically having 12.8% of the total biomass in the earth. So again this emphasizes the fact that bacteria, they are the most abundant microbes which are present, and still so after plants, microbial abundance is so much even in terms of biomass. So we have seen in terms of numbers, we have seen in terms of microbial diversity, and we have seen in terms of biomass that they constitute a major chunk of the biosphere. And again I repeat that it will not be exaggerating if I call this biosphere as the microbe sphere. Most abundant microbes, if we look at, now there is always a ambiguity that whether the bacteria are more abundant or viruses. I just now told you and showed you that the bacteria are more abundant, and in that figure the viruses was having a smaller part. But it is always so that the viruses, there's always a controversy between how to include these viruses, because viruses are acellular structures. If we are talking about biosphere, we are talking about living organisms. So we are talking about all the cellular structures of the living organisms which are there. Now because the viruses have an acellular or a non-living existence, then we hold it into the microorganisms or the microbial sphere or the biosphere or not. There is always a kind of a confusion. But then in any case, it has been more and more found that almost all the bacteria are invaded by these viruses, which are termed as bacteriophages. So you can well assume that in fact the bacteriophages, and this is gaining much of an importance, that these viruses or the bacteriophages are the most abundant, because all of the abundant bacteria that I have talked about are invaded by some bacteriophages. So this is again a very, very interesting field, and I want to emphasize it in relation to the microbial diversity, that the viruses or the bacteria infecting viruses, which the bacteriophages are there, may be the most abundant microbes in the biosphere which are there. They are most likely the candidate. One of the bacteria, the most abundant organism on earth, is an ultra small marine bacterium which is called as the Candidatus pedagilibacter UBK. Now this is present into the terms of 2 into 10 raised to the power of 28 individuals in the marine surface. Now it is not again very astonishing to realize the fact that the marine it's a marine organism, because 70% of the earth is covered with water. So probably the most abundant bacteria is present in the water only. So in the marine bacterium, which is pedagilibacter UBK, that was found. It was found somewhere in I think 2002 it was discovered. Now this belongs to a clade which is a SAR11 clade, and when we look at its biochemistry as well as physiology and morphology, we understand that these organisms are just living organisms. They have very simple structures. All I can say is that they have only the essential features which are required for them to be alive. So this is again very interesting fact. It is very widely spread. It's the most likely candidate for the most abundant organism on earth which is present, and it is the simplest organism which basically contains only the essential and needful things to basically survive in that environment. That is to make them just alive. This is the most abundant microbe. So that is how again they have discovered that this bacterium is also invaded by a bacteriophage, which is basically bacteriophage HTV C010P that infect this pedagilibacter and cells, and therefore probably all known bacteria are plagued by the viruses, as I just mentioned. So therefore more abundant than their host. So it's always a talk that whether the bacteria or whether these viruses or bacteriophages are most abundant. But whatever the case may be, the humans are not. If you would have noticed in the figure, when I talked about the biomass, the humans constitute only 0.01% of the total biomass, the carbon content, in the gigaton carbon content which is there. So you can well imagine that how small a biomass that we constitute in this biosphere which is there. So the most abundant is the bacteria as well as some of the archaea, and as we can talk about the viruses infecting these bacteria or the bacteriophages, which are the most abundant microbes that we talk about. So this was talking about the abundance. The next thing which we talk about is the ubiquitous microbes, which is that they are present everywhere. As I was telling, because this is an introduction to the microbial world, I am emphasizing on the fact that the microbes are the most abundant, the microbes are the most ubiquitous, and the microbes are responsible and playing so many significant roles in the maintenance of humans, in the maintenance of the environment, in the maintenance of all the working of the biosphere, that you cannot ignore the microbes. If you do, you do it on your own peril. So this slide clearly reflects that the microbes, particularly talking about the bacteria, they are present everywhere. The microbes are present in the oceans. We see that the water bodies cover the 70% of the Earth's surface, and therefore even the most abundant microorganisms are the bacteria which are present on the oceans. They are present on the surface. They are present on the, they are in the rarest depth they have been found. The bacteria have been found. So on the surface they are aerobic, on the deep down they are basically anaerobic, but they are present. The microbes are present in the air, again in the atmosphere, and in fact in some recent studies they have found that the microbes can probably sustain in the space, or there are certain microbes which can probably live in the environment of Mars. There have been some recent studies that are pointing towards these facts. So again, the microbes are so important, so widespread and so ubiquitous. The microbes are present on the soil. In the soil surfaces they are present. The microbes are present in the soil surfaces at various locations and points. And it also in the inset shows that microbes are very important for running the nitrogen cycle, where they fix the atmospheric nitrogen and then they return it into the environment, which is a very, very important. So not only nitrogen, but in different biogeochemical cycles for releasing the organic content and the nutrient back to the environment and then again fixing for the plant growth, etc. So there are plant growth promoting bacteria. There are plant interacting bacteria. So we will be talking in detail about all of these down the lane. But this is, I am giving you the examples on where these microbes are present. So even in plants, they are associated with the roots, they are associated with the stem, they are associated with the leaves you can find. They are associated, there are soil microbial communities which are governing the health of the soils, different soils at different places. They are present at all the different kinds of soil surfaces which is there. They are present at your home. The microbes are ubiquitous. They are everywhere, they are present, and all the things in your home, they are present. You don't have to worry that all of them are harmless. We'll talk about that also, but they are present everywhere. They are present in you. They are present on you. They are present on your skin. They are present in your gut. They are present in your lung, and we will talk more about this during the further discussion.